It's Matthew DeLonge. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me, brother.
How are you, man? How's San Diego? Where are you right now? Are you in the office?
No. This is my house. I have a little house that I've rented for the past few years. I've been trying to build a house for like 3 years now, and the pandemic hit and just like really fucked up everything. But I've also been very fortunate because this little rental that I've been in has like this really cool view of like the ocean and then like the hills this way. So it's very zen, so I'm not complaining, but like trying to build a house during the pandemic is kind of stupid, doesn't work very well. But we are rocking and rolling now. But at this moment, I'm just sitting here in my little modest abode.
I was going to say that you posted earlier this week that you are a new house owner. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's I've had it for a bit of time. Usually you get a permit to build in San Diego. It takes like 60 days to get the permit. Dude, we fucking waited a year and you don't hear anything because these motherfuckers like at the city or the county or something like don't even work. They're working at home because of the pandemic, and then no one's really like monitoring what they do. And I'm sitting here going, I have like fucking 30 dudes with hammers waiting to build this shit, poles and wood. The whole house is going to fall down. Give me this stamp. But we just got it last week, so we're doing okay now.
Yeah, I was arguing with the production team because I wasn't sure if this is an actual home or if this is a studio, because you mentioned this is where you want to make music and movies. Is this going to be like a giant multiplex of activity?
It's kind of it will be. So the house has like, it's kind of like spread out with just different structures, and some are from, I'll be rehearsing in one. I'll be doing all the movie development in another location, and then recording music and scoring movies and all that shit will be in another. So it's kind of spread out. It'll be a lot. It'll be really good for that kind of stay at home in the trees and be very creative. That's the goal. I like nature,
Bad time to be getting a house though when you're about to go on the road around America and then Europe next year, right?
Yeah, maybe I'll just like not even want it when I'm done. I'll say, fuck, I'll just move down to Australia and swim with the sharks or something.
No, you don't want to move to Australia right now. We're behind you guys.
I heard that you guys are like closing down again and all these different. I mean, dude, it's just like, shit. What is wrong with the world? It's just unreal. Like, I just read this thing yesterday on Twitter. There was this gnarly like MIT report in the 70s that predicted economic collapse of entire Earth at a very specific time, and then these people just came back and redid the study and said, oh, we're on track exactly for that, but we have literally changes that need to be made right now for it to stop. So like, if we don't do it right now, it's a big deal. And that could be a part of that is like better technology and cleaning up the environment and not overproducing, not like thousands of iPhones for each individual, like trying to tame our consumerism, so I don't know. But we might all be dead like in a few years.
Fuck, what was the next chapter of that article?
The next chapter is really highly sexual. It's hard to get into right here. I don't know if you can handle the heat of the language used,
Dude, how have the shows been? A couple of years ago, 2019, which seems like a million years ago, you guys did your first shows in 7 years. You've had a couple of warm-up shows. You did Lollapalooza. Now you're gearing up for this big tour. How's being on a stage again, especially for you when you took some years off to focus on To the Stars?
Thanks for asking. It was awesome. So basically I went through a divorce. It was really tragic. It was really difficult, as those are for anybody. And I kind of wanted to just like, I was so depressed. I was like, I just need to remember who I am. And so I want to play music again. I'm going to go play music again. It's the first time like 7 years. So we put the shows up for sale, and then they all just sold out so quickly, like minutes. And I was like, wait, what? Like, because we're putting out our own albums and stuff. We weren't really servicing the fan base in some kind of like way where we can track things. We weren't like looking at streams and all this, like, like all the analytics that go along with running a record label. We weren't really doing that. So I didn't really know, but the band was growing, and which was awesome. So these shows were just on fire, and then it just kind of reignited that spark. And so I was working on some music, and the pandemic hit, and I just go, fuck, let's try a lot harder, and I went back in and just really kept grinding on the new album. And I think if it's not the best album I've ever made, it's up there as far as like the challenge and how much effort I put into it, and how diverse it is. and I think the maturity of the songwriting is there. You know, there'll always be people that don't like what I do or whatever, or there'll always be people that like the Blink record for when it changed their life because of X reason, they were in high school or whatever they needed. So I understand that. And but for me as an artist, as far as the difficulty and creating a work of art that is, you know, that you feel is elevated and pushing the limits on what you've done or can do. But in any case, so we did that, work on the record, and now it's starting to come out with playing some shows. And what I've learned was like Angels is finally kind of like being presented in the way that I always wished it would, but I didn't know how to do it. Like in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to be fucking funny and rebellious because I've been doing that and that's in me. I'm not changed, but there's some deep kind of more introspective stuff that I'm into, and I wanted to focus on that. And then, but you know, you're insecure. You're kind of like, oh, I'm not this guy in this giant band. I'm starting all over again. And so like, there's a lot of searching for who you are and what to say and how to write. And I feel like we've hit our stride. Like, I feel like we know who we are now. We know how to do it, and we're pretty fucking good at it, you know, and it's really empowering. And so the shows have been just fucking awesome on tour, and Lollapalooza was fucking awesome. And people really understand what we're trying to do, rather than, you know, here's this guy that used to write, you know, or light the word fuck on fire on stage. Now he's got this big word love, you know, and then they're kind of going, yeah, but it has to do with consciousness and it has to do with all this esoteric cool shit. And they go, wow, we kind of get this. And yeah, it is cool to be inspired. It is cool to have a good heart. It's cool to be self-aware. It's cool to make the world better. You can still be a fucking funny asshole along the way, but your intention and your motive, if it's pure, you know, then yeah, I think that's cool. And we need more of that. And that's always what I've been after, is to do something like that.
I think that was always like a concern, like as a lifelong Blink fan, when you first started Angels, and obviously the content was obviously more serious. The film clips were really, what's the word? I guess very expansive. But then I remember when you guys came to Australia for the first time, the live show, you're still full of dick jokes. The Tom DeLonge that we know is not gone. So it's nice that like it's kind of like the way I always describe it when I talk to people about Angels. It's like, well, it's like Boxcar, right? Like Boxcar was a different product to Blink, but that doesn't change who Tom DeLonge is as the Joker on stage.
Oh my God. Like when we left Lollapalooza, the article was Angels and Dick Jokes. I had some good ones, by the way. I just want to put it out there. Then I said some quality things. But yeah, and what's funny is on that last tour, the tour that we just did, you know, last year or a year and a half ago, I really realized, like I'm always doing things that like I probably shouldn't be doing, right? Like the government stuff, or like starting a new band based on like, you know, some concepts that people aren't really understanding it or whatever. And I see what people say. I get it. Like people shooting bullet, he's crazy or he's fucking nuts or he's cheating alien. You know, they don't know, but I always know what I'm doing. I'm a pretty smart guy or clever guy. Maybe I'm not that smart, but I'm hyper aware of what I'm doing, and I don't make stupid decisions when it has to do with like my family or my life or my art, you know. But I am unpredictable, but I always know that when I do something, over time people will get it, you know. So I'm not really concerned about what people think. And I feel like after I did all my work with To the Stars, and then, you know, we got the government to acknowledge all this stuff and bring all this stuff out, and now it's trickling to the world, and people are going to start hearing a lot more. I felt finally that people are starting to understand that who I am, you know. And so, and I just felt like really relieved. I felt really comfortable in my own skin. I felt like I didn't have to hide who I was talking to and what I was working on. I felt like people are starting to hear about it, you know. And so it validated a lot of what people didn't understand about me for the past few years. And so what happened was I became really comfortable with just being me finally. And so then all of a sudden, just dick jokes galore start coming out and stuff. And I was like, this is who I am, you know. We're going to sing about love and changing the world. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to tell you a story about my drummer and me on horseback naked up in the mountains, discovering something, you know, like it's funny. And, but that's who I am, you know. I'm kind of all over the map that way.
I have a serious question to ask on what you just said, but just side story. Right before this interview, I was watching. Do you guys remember when you're in Australia, your last tour with Blink, you were on Rove? And just as far as like the way culture has evolved in terms of PC, in a 10-minute interview, you joked about premature ejaculation, the fact that Mark and Travis are perverts towards your own children. And like, that was just completely like, everyone is just laughing and having a great time. Like, Motherfucker, if you said that in 2021, you would be
Oh my God.
canceled before the interview is over.
Oh, easy. I mean, there is shit that I am not going to point out that I've said that exists that's so gnarly. Like I brought it up a few days ago. I'm all, dude, if you look, I'm not going to say where it's at, but if you saw this thing that's out there, it's fucking insane that I haven't been like just dragged through the mud and lit on fire. That's punk rock, you know, and we always considered ourselves in Blink, we're equal opportunists when it comes to offending people. You know, it's like we don't really care like who you are, what color you are, or what orientation you are. Like the PC thing, we rebelled against because so many bands were all about it. All these punk bands from the Bay Area, like the Green Day side of things, were really concerned with all that, and rightfully so. They were more advanced than we were, but we were like, they would, you know, people get really like political about like, you know, this and that, and you can't say that, you can't say that, and we would be like, fuck you, we can say whatever we want. You know,
Yeah.
we thought it was funny. You know, I mean, you know, I remember there was this one time we played this fucking show with like Modest Mouse way back. It was like a big festival, you know, and they're an indie rock band, and they're nothing like us. You know, I got kicked out of high school and I lit someone's house on fire and shit. I did some bad shit, you know. So I'm sitting there, we're up there talking, we're saying the worst shit because we're not that big yet. Like we're at this big radio show and there's probably 20,000 people there, you know, and we're getting like 6,000 people watching us, and we just think it's retarded. Or we can't even say retarded, but we were like, I can't believe this many people are fucking watching us. You know, we just came from a show where my friend, like in Guttermouth, like lit a drumstick on fire up his ass and he's running on stage with his dick out. So this is like nothing. So we're saying all this crazy shit, and all of a sudden, like after the show, some of those guys in that band, I remember they were really like bummed. They were like, they couldn't believe that anyone would get up there and say that kind of shit. We had so many boobs out, and we're telling guys to show us their dicks. I mean, we were just all over the place. And I remember the guy goes, "You don't need to do," I was sitting there, it's like one of the guys in the band, he goes, "You don't need to do that. You don't need to say those things. You could just, you know, just play the music. You know, the songs are good." And I looked at him and I'm all sweaty and I was like, "We're a punk band, man. That's what we do." You know, that's what we do. You know, like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't go to McDonald's and say, "Yeah, you don't have to serve fucking hamburgers." You know, like what? I mean, a punk rock band that has like too many feelings that I
Yeah.
can't say something. Like we were pissed off. We came from families with domestic abuse. We come from families that that had like substance abuse issues. We come from families that had physical. We were beat and shit by our parents. You know, like like I grew up around fist fights and Nazis and fucking skinheads and Mohawks and like fucking street gang skateboarders punching people in the face for no reason just because they're getting kicked out of a parking lot. Like there's a lot of tough kids around the way I grew up. And so everything that we did was like a version of rebellion mixed with like extreme humor and energy, because you just, get me the fuck out of here and laugh if I want to fucking laugh, you know. And so it was important to us to be that way because that was very authentic. You know, we weren't acting that way because we thought it would sell records. Like, you know, we did not come from perfect places, you know.
All right, well, going back to that serious point that I wanted to ask you about, because, you know, you did mention there that you've always been sure of yourself, you know what you want to do. For those who may not be aware, when you left Blink in 2015 to kind of pursue To the Stars more, the last show you did was at Reading in front of 100,000 people. That is a very ballsy thing to do, to say, I'm going to step away from this, when Blink is arguably bigger than, not arguably, they were bigger than you guys were when you left in 2004. What did you, like, were you sure then, even in 2015, despite how big Blink is, I know what I'm going to go do and this is going to pull off?
You know, I'm very much like, I'm always thinking about the future. I'm also very, you know, sensitive to what's in the present moment. I don't look at the past. Like, I'm not going, oh my God, I mean, we're a big band, or there's a lot of money, or people really like me there. You know, I don't give a shit about that stuff. I'm not dumb about it. Like, you know, if I want to like pay my bills, you know, or whatever, I got to consider it. But it doesn't like influence me to, it does, it's just like an ingredient, I guess, in a decision, but it's not like the ingredient. For me, it was more like, if I don't see the light, if I don't feel like we are authentically being ourselves, and we're not authentically inspiring others, then then we're just celebrating what we've done and we're getting adoration for it. And that doesn't work for me because I need to create stuff. And if I'm not creating something that makes me feel where I get the goosebumps or I get the tears or I feel like somebody out there is going to feel what I feel right now, then I'm not interested. And that's all I'm interested in is expression, you know? So at that time frame, it wasn't a hard decision. Like it's a shitty decision, but it's like, if I can't gel with you guys and we're not laughing and hugging and have each other's backs and really support each other, if there's ego or if there's like, you know, talking through managers to talk to your own bandmates and weird shit where it's just awkward. And I am not saying it's those guys. I mean, it's like all three of us have egos and shit. And I'm a lot better with that now than I was then even. But I just know at the end of the day, I gotta be with people that love me and that I love. And meaning not just like Mark and Travis at the time. It's like we're brothers. We'll always love each other. It's like, and then we'll get back and go, my bad. We're just boys, right? But like in the moment when you're arguing and stuff, you just want to be there. You know, you can love your girlfriend like crazy, but you don't really want to go out to dinner with her if you're fighting and can't talk. You know, and so that's just what it boils down to. You might want to skip the dinner for a few, you know, but
Yeah.
but things always change. You know, like I'm learning about myself that I'm not always right. You know, I'm learning that I get amped up real quick. And I go, oh, fuck it, okay, whatever. And I talk really fast. And I do a lot of crazy shit. So I'm learning a lot about myself, and I'm trying to apply those things and really try to look inward when you get really emotional. It's like whenever you get emotional about anything, it's always your fucking fault. It doesn't matter if someone came over and killed your cat or some shit. It doesn't matter. They did that to me, but people can't make you feel things. You are in charge of that. It's like when someone tells you you're ugly, and he's on the side of the road and he's shooting up heroin. Do you cry about it all fucking day? Go, I'm fucking ugly. That guy said so. His name's Kevin. No, you don't give a fuck. Like it's just one guy saying something. And but if someone else that you respect says you're ugly, maybe it does hit you harder. But at the end of the day, you're choosing for it to hit you harder. And so I think like people need to think a little bit more about themselves and stop blaming everybody else around them. Everybody's trying to get by. Everybody's trying to find happiness, security, and love. Everybody's trying to get rid of their substance abuse issues. Everyone's trying to figure out how to meet their parents at a place where they understand why their parents are such pricks. Then you kind of go, oh, well, they're like me. They're an adult with a kid inside. You don't really know what you're doing, you know? And that's just, you know, life experience and so on. And I'm better at that now than I was. And, you know, I think the future is kind of bright because of so.
Yeah, and for people who may not be aware, obviously with the To the Star stuff that was happening, it is a weird thing for a big rock star like yourself to say, I'm going to go off and do this and work with government officials. That kind of pulled off in the last year. For people who don't know, last year, the Pentagon released declassified videos filmed by Navy pilots, which were published by To the Stars, which validated everything that you were saying. People are like, who the fuck, Tom DeLonge, that guy was running around naked in film clips. Now it's like, oh, holy shit, he was right. Fuck you. What I did want to ask, because I know you've answered this question a couple of times, so I wanted to change it up a little bit. You were on Joe Rogan. I feel like that Rogan podcast was kind of the peak of like people starting thinking that, okay, Tom's lost it now, like because of. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, but when I watched that Rogan interview, it felt like you guys did not connect at all. Like I think you made a dick joke within the first 60 seconds, and straight off the mark, I was like, oh, Joe does not get Tom's humor, and I just think it didn't work. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. So the series of events was, and some stuff I can't discuss, but when To the Stars was formed, and I had all these people from the Central Intelligence Agency and the Department of Defense and Skunk Works, Lockheed Martin, and just like on and on and on. We did like multiple days of media training, and it was difficult. And the reason was because all my guys have with polygraphs, and like it's insane. It's like prison, like the most secretive shit, including UFOs that these guys are all know a lot about, been briefed into and all that shit. Like they got to make sure that Tom, the one without the security clearance, is not out there spilling a bunch of shit that he shouldn't be spilling. And it's not that they gave me classified info, because they wouldn't do that. I just happen to know it. And it's because I got very clever and I put together a bunch of pieces that honestly as they say, or someone in that group that can't say it would say, like, you weren't supposed to be able to put those pieces together, but there was a better way to do it. So we did all this media training. And then the very first thing that's booked was Joe Rogan. It was a big opportunity. But everything about it was, you can't say this, you can't say this, you can't say this, stay away from this, stay. And I wasn't that good at it yet. I haven't done it yet. So I go in there and I was thoroughly unprepared for 90 minutes of some guy being the way he is, like, why can't you do that? Why can't you do that? I don't believe you. And all this dumb shit. And I'm sitting here just trying to fly by the seat of my pants, knowing that for like months before this and the few days before this, I have all these really important people staring at me only, saying, don't you fucking fuck up. It's a big deal. Now, keep in mind, my guys were being followed. Some of my guys were wearing bulletproof vests. We had crazy national security investigations going that, I can't get into on some of the things that were happening with my company and us, because it looked like we were about ready to start spilling the biggest secrets ever, which wasn't the case. And so I got caught in a situation where I was kind of unprepared for. So I kind of riffed as best I could. But I tell people they can listen to the shit that I said, and because I got in a lot of trouble after that fucking interview. And if you've noticed, I haven't done anything like that ever again.
I love my favorite part about that. I don't know if Travis went on like a couple of weeks later, and Joe asked him about you, and Travis is like, yeah, that's been Tom his whole life. Like, we would go on tour and get fucked up and go look for aliens.
Yeah. Travis and Mark, funny because they've suffered through this shit forever. Travis actually, when I started working with the people from the government, like, Travis was a little bit more like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, he actually kind of took it in a different way than I expected, and even Mark would be quiet. Like, even now he listens, he goes, wow, that's crazy. But that's how he is. He internalizes it, he doesn't really ask questions or push. But the funny thing is for so many years, Hoppus would like stand up and go, oh my God, Tom's talking again, and leave the room. And it was funny. Like, he was funny about it, but he was just like, I fucking don't want to hear this again. Because once I start talking, I can't shut the fuck up about it. I'm like, you guys don't understand, and then, so imagine their surprise after like 15 years of dealing with my obsession that's not real. I'm walking in with guys from the CIA and shit, and the Pentagon's mentioning my video. Tom's videos are UFOs, and UFOs are real. Navy, the Department of Defense, the task, all the shit, So imagine, it's what it's like everyone's like, wait, he's not crazy. And I'm like, nah, that's why I didn't care that you guys were calling me crazy, because I'm privy to shit you're not. I know what's coming. I know what is happening, and this is just the beginning. And I proudly, I'm the one that started it, but I'm not the one that pulled it all off. That's like, you needed a vehicle that's mixed with government people and all the arts and all. There's a lot that was needed to do it, and it's still ongoing. So I got a lot of things still up my sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to Rogan you and throw questions at you that you're not allowed to answer. But can you tell me how these conversations go? Like, when Tom DeLonge, the musician, who's for 20 years has been on stage making people laugh and cry with your music, you go into a room with a government official and they look at you and say, who the fuck are you? Who are you to get into this activity with us?
Yeah.
Did that happen? Or is it?
Oh, yeah. There's a few things. There's the first of like, there's a whole story about how I achieved this that I'm trying to get permission to tell, that's like, people are going to fucking have their minds blown. But just from a high level, what I can say is, like, there's moments where I'm just making shit up, trying to get them to meet with me. And I don't know what to say, because I know if I say UFO, I'll get kicked out. There's also moments where people come and meet with me on their own initiative, and they sit down and say, who the fuck are you? And what do you know? Like, there's some of that. And then there's some of like more sobering conversations where, let me explain to you the stakes of what you're doing. And then they explain something that you never really understood, because you don't have the experience that they do, dealing with things that are literally like really scary and a big deal, like nuclear proliferation or biological warfare or terrorism or UFOs, like, these are all huge things that you and I could never really understand the stakes. Now, we can put pieces together, what's going on and what they are and what they're doing, and it's scary and it's unnerving, but the stakes of that is a big deal. And so I've kind of had a lot of different conversations, but I think what they found out was that, I'm a smart guy, and I'm kind of the man for the job because I understand business and I understand art. I'm also not an actor, so people don't think I'm acting. They might think I'm crazy, I might whatever, but at least they kind of like put me in a different category. But I always did what I said I would do. I executed. I was always very like humble and about it, and was very like, I'm not Ed Snowden. I'm not trying to poke the lion in the eye, because the reality is when you come to this subject, people can whine and kick and scream all they want about being left out of the secret, or not being informed. They don't want to be. Trust me. Like, this is not a good thing. The people working on this shit they're not running around going, oh, this is so awesome, I'm so stoked, I know something they don't. These guys aren't sleeping, and they're probably fucking up all night, exhausted and stressed, and hate their life because they're dealing with something that is like fucking difficult, and all of us get to go to the mall on the weekends not knowing that stress. It's like when someone tries to sneak a nuclear weapon into Sydney, it's like, you don't want to know about it. You don't want to be the guy that has to not fucking let everyone die. It's like, no one wants that job.
Has there ever been a point in this whole process where you were like, fuck this, I'm in too deep, I need to get out?
Yes.
Wow. There's no follow-up question there. Yeah. No, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. For more ways than you would even understand,
Can you at least tell me this? Have you ever, with a government official, made an uncomfortable dick joke?
Yeah, but depending on who it is. It did not
land?
The ones that I do in front land, like my partner Jim from the agency is a lifelong spy and made his way all the way up to senior intelligence service, which is like the executive management team of the CIA. I think there's 4 directorates. The director of operations is where all the spies live, or whatever. So he's a big time dude, right? But he's also, the CIA picks guys because they're like street guys. They don't pick like if you're a pencil pusher MIT kid or some shit, they'll tap you on the shoulder, but you're going to be an analyst or something. But if you're going to be a spy, they're going to find the guy that's done acid, that's gotten fist fights, that loves fucking. Oh yeah, it's so funny. Jim tells me this crazy story. He was sitting in there about ready to go get polygraphed, trying to get a job there, and they go, he sits down, they wire him up, and they're all, have you ever, he's a kid of the 60s, right? He's in his 60s, but like from a time period where like, they're like, have you done LSD? He's like, yeah. He's polygraphed. You have to say, yeah, you have to be truthful. They're all, have you done drugs and other drugs? Goes, yeah. Have you stole shit? Yeah. He said all this, and then I guess he leaves and he sits down in the next room and someone's like, how did it go? And he goes, I fucking blew that. God damn it. I don't get it. I don't get the job. They literally come, okay, you're hired, because of those things.
Yeah.
It's because he's lived a life and because he's got edge, and he can work his way on this. He's street smart, and he's smart, so it's funny. So you'd be surprised at who laughs at the dick jokes.
Isn't that weird? Like, obviously I don't know anyone who's a fucking spy, but all the guys I were at high school with, like the ones who at house parties were blind drunk before the sun went down and were like running around naked, shitting in pools. They're the ones who have their life most in order right now. Like, they're killing it career-wise.
Funny. Yeah, you got to live a little bit. You're not going to be that good at life if you don't party and you don't cry and you don't love and you don't commit a crime. It's like all those things are learning experiences and make you better. Now, if you keep doing some of that bad shit and you don't learn your lesson, then you're not going to be one of those guys that are kicking ass. But life experience will really make you into a better human, as long as that experience you grow from. You don't like devolve.
Bringing it back to Angels, like, your ambition is obviously fucking crazy, and we've seen it out before. Blink breaks up in February 2005. Mark famously said in a couple of interviews, like, he had an identity crisis because he's always been Mark from blink-182. For you, though, by May 2006, you guys released The Adventure. So just over a year, you've got a new band, new music. Take me back to that time. Like, did you know almost immediately that you had this music, you wanted to get it out? Or was this a case of, okay, well, Blink's done, on to the next thing?
It was that, like, I
Wow.
didn't have a plan. I just knew that there was more in me than anything predictable. I knew that I wanted to challenge myself to catch people off guard and be unpredictable, and elevate my songwriting. I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to be expansive. I wanted it to reflect, consciousness and where I was growing with my, with self-awareness, and I wanted to make, being a good person. I wanted that to be cool. I was like, there's a version where you don't have to be fucking Gandhi and handing out Bibles on the street or some shit. Like, there's a version where you can be an enlightened individual and take people along with you, but still crack a few good dick jokes or something. I was trying to figure it out. So David and I sat at the beach and we were like, what is that? What does that look like? And it became like, it's an art project. We're gonna take these big themes and try to talk about them on different mediums. But the problem was, it's fucking hard to make movies, So we were like, we need help. So created To the Stars as a little production company, and I start mapping out kind of the stories I want to tell that would go along with the themes and the albums I wanted to do. And one of those was about UFOs, and I just go, shit, if I tell this the way I want to tell it, my car is probably going to just drive off a cliff on accident, So I spent a long period of time knocking on some doors to try to like socialize what I was trying to achieve. And then everything took a left turn. I was like, oh my God, then this whole like path opened up where I could actually change the world. And I was like, and it's not about people knowing that I did. I just go, it will change, for the better. And so I just fucking slammed the gas pedal down and went with it. And that was at the same time where, we were getting like the first albums off the ground and all that kind of stuff. But the adventure, it's funny, like a kid leaked that. They hacked my email and stole the song because the songs were being mixed in Florida. I live in California. And so they would get emailed back to me, and someone gets in there and they released that song. And that became the big single. Like I didn't think that was going to be the first single or whatever, but it's cool because it really is the flagship song for what I'm trying to achieve with the band, And so I couldn't have been more lucky, So I'm really grateful that someone did that.
Yeah, this album, Life Forms, obviously we've said that it's a little bit reminiscent of early Ava. For me, listening to it, I think this album would be perfectly fit in between I Empire and Love. Tell me if you fucking hate that.
I don't hate it at all. I wish I would have been able to achieve something like that back then, but I wouldn't have been able to because Alon is such a big part, and his brother Aaron, they're both such a big part of this and helping me to not just fall back on my things that I always do, like it's an easy way out if I just play this way, but when bands like evolve, they're either like a punk band that's fast is going to slow down and be more intricate. It's like Minor Threat to Fugazi or something, but if you're like playing slow all the time, then it's like Coldplay was really slow, and all of a sudden they start like picking it up a notch on like X and Y and some of the other records. So you kind of got to go you got to pick a direction as you evolve. Angels, the most common, the most rational approach for me was a little bit less atmospherics, get it more raw, get a little bit more punk, and let the guitars be a little bit more in your face or something. But it doesn't take away the fact that we have songs that are total synthwave on the record and stuff. I mean, there's like something that coming out here shortly that sounds like Depeche Mode, so it's a very diverse record. And I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised, hopefully. And but where it sits, yeah, it's interesting. There are the things that you've heard on it, or I don't know if you heard the record or not, or whatever. There are elements that fucking live exactly where you're saying, because I Empire had a little bit more of a raw nature to it, and then Love got more synth and more softer around the edges, So it makes sense for what you said for that reason to me.
So what happens post-March? Obviously, you're gearing up for the album release. You go on tour in the US. You go off to the UK and Europe early next year. Do you continue working on Ava? Do you kind of stop the music again and go back what you're doing with To the Stars and all the movies? Where do you...
I have our movie Monsters of California, which is like a companion piece to the album that's coming out. And that's not like the movie Love. That was like an art house kind of meditative, like Blink fans were probably like, the fuck is this? And then like Angels fans like, this is like church, Yeah. But
that's like my exact reaction. Yeah.
Monsters of California though is like dick jokes and skateboarders and UFOs and paranormal shit. It looks like a Spielberg exercise, but it's like Seth Rogen came in and wrote all the jokes or something. Like it's,
Yes.
I think people are gonna really love it, and it feels at times like a John Hughes movie, like an '80s like coming of age movie that's glued together with these comedy action bits that I just think people are gonna kind of blown away and surprised, and it's I'm really excited about it. It's fun. Yeah.
When do you know when this has been released, and more specifically, selfishly speaking, is it getting an Australian release?
Oh yeah. So I'm hoping to have this thing done in the fall. I would love to premiere it when I'm on tour. But if we don't make that, it will premiere right around the holidays or something, and then it'll be out springish. So when you ask like what's happening after March, I mean, my goal is that movie is, really in stride, and we can do even more tours that are bigger and start incorporating all the media I've ever loved, Poet Anderson, Monsters of California, Unidentified, the UFO, all that, and bring it to life. That's always been the goal. It's just really hard to do. It's like we got to have the demand for it, so.
What if, like, let's just say, just the best case scenario, this movie fucking kills. Suddenly, Tom DeLonge is like one of the on the up directors there is, and now you've got filmmakers and studio heads wanting to work with you on, like you said, what if fucking Seth Rogen says, "Holy shit, I got to work with Tom DeLonge"? Is there like now a possible career path you moving into film for an extended period of time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's already happening. So To the Stars is a film company. It's a production company that is developing intellectual property. It's informed science fiction, franchise, big stuff, and but it's going to glue together music. Music will be bookending all this shit. I'm not gonna be doing movies all year every year. I'll be like one movie a year or every 18 months, which involves like, a lot of things that are happening while I'm on tour, writing scripts, developing stories, and pitching things. And then when you get into pre-production, you're locked in production, principal photography, you're locked. Post, you get to take a break. The editors kind of do their thing. So it's not like I'm sucked into a room for 18 months by any means. So my plan is never where I just leave music and I'm doing movies. Music's, it's just, unfortunately, it's just too important to me. I don't know how to not do it, So I think people will I think people will be surprised what I'm able to achieve, by touring and putting out films and stuff consistently.
Yeah, I was listening to your Apple Music show with Hoppus, 2 weeks ago, and you guys spoke a little bit about the movie, and you touched on, do you know the Always music video you guys shot in Australia?
Yeah.
That was shot in the studio which is home to the fucking Wiggles.
Thank God, because we need to be surrounded by Academy Award winning artists, They were really, really horny. That's what I remember. They were in there touching our dicks and shit. And like, we were like, guys, we're trying to film a video. It was gnarly. Like, I don't really recommend anyone hanging in a dark room with the Wiggles.
Which Wiggle do we need to look out for?
The wiggliest one. The one that wiggles the most is the one you don't go near.
Do you remember that shoot? Because I didn't realize until that interview that you guys were completely drunk filming that.
Well, are you talking about like a 10-year period? Because I remember really very little. Yeah, no, I mean, I remember making that video very well. I actually learned a hell of a lot. Actually, I learned a lot on that. I couldn't believe what Joseph Kahn did. I mean, all the guys that just got done doing the Star Wars movies down there, that George Lucas, when he brought back and he redid some more movies, Phantom Menace or some shit. And so all these guys were like, we just worked with George Lucas, steady. And they were so frustrated and pissed because Joseph Kahn was describing these things of how they have to move the camera and the actors and the choreography and what it's all doing and putting into these 3 horizontal things. And no one got it. But he had an editor on stage. And so on day number 2, the footage was starting to get thrown into the edit. And then everyone with the steady cams, camera guys, everyone, they were like, whoa, we didn't know that's what we were trying to do. And then they were like, they shut the fuck up so quick, because that video is genius and extraordinarily difficult to do. And anybody that makes film can look at that and go, that's a mind fuck to put together. It's all one shot 3 different times in 3 different, it's just, I don't even want to describe, it'll take me too long to describe what's happening and how hard it is to film what we filmed. I was really blown away, and I learned a hell of a lot that day, those 2 days.
Do you remember much of that tour? I mean, for me, that was the first time I ever saw Blink in concert. That was September 2004, and then you guys ended up splitting in February 2005. So that wasn't too long after, was it?
You know what? I don't even remember. I just because that was it would, yeah, you're right. It would have been just around that time. Yeah, because that was the Untitled record. So yeah, it's so funny. Like, three of us always have so much potential, like we really can do anything, but we'd be lazy or our egos got in the way or some shit, but like when we're in our stride, I mean, I think that's where a lot of the fans were like, that's what they're waiting. They're like pissed. They're like, God, get your fucking shit together, because there's something here, and I feel like, you see moments of that, and that video would be one of those moments back in that time frame for us.
It's funny, like, it's well documented that one of the main riffs in Blink was you and Travis doing Boxcar. But fast forward to 2021, Mark has interviewed you so many times about Angels and Airwaves. He does Simple Creatures with Alex Gascart. Travis drums for fucking everyone. The idea that you guys can do other things outside of Blink, I think that's dead and buried, right?
Oh yeah, that's all it's not. Especially after like Travis' plane crash and Mark's cancer, it's like, we all talk all the time now. Like, I talked to Mark yesterday and I'll talk to him today. And so I think, everyone's growing up. Everyone has the trials and tribulations they have to go through. Everyone's got, ups and downs and difficulties in their life. And that's one of the joys of, circling back around with each other and kind of having a lot more compassion and a lot more understanding and wisdom about yourself and about others,
It's a special time. I mean, obviously you posted this yesterday that Mark is in the final stages of his treatment. Travis got on a plane for the first time in however long, last week. It's a really nice thing. I don't know how else to describe
awesome.
it.
Yeah, I sent him a message like, dude, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Like, this is fucking huge. What a huge, amazing thing you accomplished, and so stoked for him. Hopefully he continues to be unpredictable that way. It's great.
So, man, after 2022, we get back in the film. Hopefully, the country is open for you to come premiere Monsters of California. Fucking hoping.
Yeah.
What can we expect after that, music-wise? Can we expect more Angels? I know you and Travis have been teasing Boxcar stuff. The $1 million question about Blink. What can we expect looking in the next 2 to 3 years?
I would say expect the unexpected, my friend. That's my answer to you.
All right. I love that. Tom, thank you so much, man. Congratulations. Thanks, on the album. I love it. Can't wait for release it, and can't wait for you to get in the country once you're legally allowed in.
I love it. And I really appreciate your knowledge. I appreciate that you've been following what I do. I appreciate that you like some of what I do. You're great at this. Keep doing it. And I look forward to talking to you next time.
Tom, thanks so much, man.